Hey y'all, and welcome back to my channel, The Cutest Little Thing, Upcycle with Andrea. It is time for part 2 of our series of flips, thrift flip video. If you watched part 1, I hope you enjoyed that. And I thank you for watching, and now it's time for part 2. It was just such a long video, I wanted to break it into 2 videos instead of having one long one. I just know shorter videos are a little more convenient for people to watch, so I try to keep it within a certain time limit for you guys. So let's get started. I'm ready, I'm excited, and I hope you are too. All right, guys, so we still have our other tray. Once we started, we started out with 2 of them, and so far I've done this one exactly the same as the other one as far as the paint. So I've been trying to decide what I'm going to do with this one, and yesterday I got in some new IOD transfers and I am itching to use some of these. So I'm thinking I love all of them, but I really, oh, where'd it go? Did I skip it? Hold on. This one really caught my eye for this tray. I really love the color. I love that coral color in the flower. I love the wording and everything. So I have this little crate that I thrifted for $1. It's a wall hanging. It already has the hooks on the back ready to hang on the wall. I'm just going to take my 220 grit sandpaper and sand this wording. And then I'm going to do like a wash, sort of similar to how it already is. I really like this look. So once I sand off this wording, I'm just going to do something similar that's already, here, like a wash technique. And then I'm just going to kind of, glue my tray on somehow similar to how we did the other piece. As you saw, I went ahead and just broke out my rotary sander, and it was a lot quicker, and I was able to get all of the wording off completely. So now I'm ready. I'm going to use Elephant in the Waverly. I usually always use Waverly chalk paints unless I'm using latex or something like that. And then also mineral, and I'm just going to kind of mix these 2 colors, not actually together, but I'm just going to take turns painting each one on. And I'm just going to, I have a jar with some water in it here, and I'm just going to keep dipping my brush into my water, and just where that paint's going to go on really thin, I'm going to do more of like a wash on this, more so than full coverage. So we'll go ahead and get started with that, where our paint can be drying while we do our transfer on our little tray. I've got my mineral here. This was some mineral I had mixed up earlier for another project, but I've got baking soda in it for texture, so I didn't want that. So I'm just going to kind of dip. Let me offload a little bit. I forgot to wet my paintbrush, and then I'm just going to go back in that. And I'm just going to kind of wash over this. Just kind of like that. No really specific way to do it, and that top board got way more paint, but it's okay. And now I'm going to dip into my water and get some of that gray and just kind of, you know, go over what I've already done. Just kind of like that, and get all my paint off my brush. Okay, I'm gonna dip again into my water. Now we'll go with the mineral again. Okay, now I'm gonna water and go with my elephant one more time. Sort of in this area. All right, we will let this dry while we put our transfer on our little tray. And I'll just kind of see, you know, how I like it. And if I like the look, then we'll just go with it. And if not, then we'll do a little more painting. All right, we've got our transfer cut out to fit our tray. This just peels away from the backing. Let's make sure there's nothing raised up that would interfere with our transfer. Okay, so the pieces that I cut away from the transfer, we're going to be able to use them once we get the tray glued onto our wall hanging piece. We'll still be able to use those pieces. I just kind of cut them away from, you know, them being on the tray part of it. I'm just gonna press down, and then this is the little transfer tool that comes in the transfer packets, and you just take it and rub down and get that transfer to start adhering to the surface. I usually try to start on the edges, because once it kind of adheres to the edge, it's a lot, you know, it kind of starts it, and then from there it'll just kind of pull away from the rest of it. Wait, baby. I like to just kind of pull away, and I can see, like that leaf, it did not adhere to my tray, so I'm going to kind of work on it a little bit. And so it did. And you just kind of pull away. And if you see a piece that didn't adhere, like that little piece of flour, I just stuck it back down. And I'm going to bear down right where that little piece needs to adhere. And then it will usually do it. All right, and I love how this is looking. I wanted to show you guys a couple of places right here where the transfer sort of went up on the tray. It pulled away and cracked a little bit, and I had the same thing happen here and here on the stem. But what I'm going to do, I'm just going to take my 220 grit sandpaper and I'm just going to distress over this transfer just to sort of blend those areas in and just make it, give it an antique, old look, vintage look. So I think once I do that, it will be fine. And then I think I'm going to do some white wax over this. So that will definitely help it blend in. And I think once we get the complete look, it will be fine. And there's the finishing touch on our tray. I think that distressing with the 220 grit sandpaper blended those boo-boos in really nicely and also gave it a very unique look. Now we are ready to get this glued onto our wall hanging piece. Here is our board. It's good and dry. I'm loving that washed paint technique. I love that you can still see the wood grain, you can still see the knots and the design in the wood, and have those really pretty gray and brown tones. Now I'm just going to position my tray onto my wall piece and get it ready to glue. I'm going to be gluing with, I have some wood glue here. I would also use E6000 glue if I could find mine, but I have found that this wood glue works really well, especially, you know, since this piece is wood that this is being glued to. And I'm also going to be using regular hot glue, and that just holds it instantly, while this takes a little longer to dry. So, you know, you have that instant hold, and then you have the long-term hold using the wood glue or another strong glue like E6000. So we'll just go ahead. After I get this glued on, my next step is, here is the wording that I cut away from that transfer. I've been playing with it a little bit, and I'm just going to kind of place my wording onto my board how, you know, I think it will look good. So far, this is what I've come up with, and I just kind of want something down at the bottom as well. But before I, you know, do that part, I'm just going to play with it a little bit more just to make sure, you know, that's how I like it. But I think that would be really cute, the way I have everything placed. But I want to make sure my tray's centered, and then we're going to go ahead and glue. Okay, I've gotten on the transfers in the corners. I have one more corner to go. As you saw in the video clip, this is just a little piece of 220 grit sandpaper that I took and just kind of where I took my little blade here and where the slats were, I just went and, cut the transfer away. And then I just went to blend it in a little bit. That's when I took this sandpaper and just kind of roughed up the edges a little bit to get that look. I thought that turned out really nice. So then I just lightly sanded over the word itself. So then I went on to our number 1896 and did it. And then when I got over here and did it to this transfer, you saw where it sort of messed up the word seeds, and I probably could have left it and it would have been okay, but for my liking, it just messed it up. It just, just a little too much. So I just went ahead and took my sandpaper and finished sanding off the word seeds, and now it will just say bulbs and trees. Which I think is fine. And I may take just a little bit of paint and touch up right there where I sort of, had to sand a little bit heavy to get that off, just to blend that in a little bit better. This, I don't know, this is like soft wood, and I don't know, I've been having trouble with my transfer adhering onto this surface. I've been having to bear down a lot more. It just hasn't been adhering as good for me for this surface, so I'm not sure. And I was like, well, maybe it's because my paint's still a little wet, so I did let it dry overnight, and I'm back this morning putting the transfers on. They're adhering a little bit better, but still not as good as usual. So I'm going to go ahead and get our last wording on up here in our right corner, and then we'll seal this piece and it will be complete. Okay, now that we have our other words on, I just transferred them on the same way, and then I took that little piece of sandpaper and just lightly sanded over just to help it blend in. Now we're ready to seal our piece. I think I want to seal it with white wax. What I do, I take the clear wax in the Waverly. I just poured a little bit in my lid, and then I put a little dab of white paint. It's actually the plaster color in the Waverly, just to give it that little bit of lighter hue. And I'm just gonna brush this on, and that will seal our paint and also will seal in the transfer that we used. You just simply brush it on. I'm using a really soft brush just so it doesn't disturb our transfer or cause any more distressing on our piece, on our paint. And you can, if you wanted to, you could wipe back excess, but for the look I'm going for, and with this piece, it's just not going to be necessary. So I'm just brushing it, making sure I brush it in really well to get that wax in that paint, in that transfer. And then I'm not going to need to brush any away. And there we go, guys. There is our finished product. I love how these trays turned out. And then here's the other one that we did, our first one. I just love them. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know which one is your favorite. And I'm going to get these staged up and get some pretty pictures made of these and get these posted up on my site. Thanks for watching, guys.